The Mets' winning ways at Citi Field continue 3 in a row to beat the Cardinals early in this 4-game set, and Kodai Senga is looking just like the ace we knew in 2023.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Well, the New York Mets just keep on winning at Citi Field. What is it now? 8-1 to start off their season at home, and they got a chance to have the rare 4-game sweep on Sunday as they have just completely dominated this Cardinals team. And really, it's been the pitching, because while we can still quibble and talk about the offense and Brandon Nimmo's not going, or maybe wondering about a Starling Marte in the lineup, whoever it is, you want to pick your cold hitter on the Mets, we could do that. But this team is, oddly enough, now predicated on pitching, and this pitching continues to be excellent going into this series. I talked about a Cardinals team that was top 5 in baseball in OPS and runs scored. They had one of the best lineups in the game. And now through 3 games of this series, there's one guy that has proven to be dangerous. That's Brendan Donovan. The rest of this lineup, the Mets have handled with relative ease, and they just continue to put up good game after good game after good game. And this one, led by Kodai Senga, another shutout. He was awesome, and he continues to look like the Kodai Senga we saw in 2023, a guy that is just so tough to hit. He's now working on a scoreless streak of 18 in 2/3 innings pitched. He gave up 2 earned runs in his first start against the Marlins. Last 3 starts, no runs allowed. This one today, 5 2/3, scoreless. His ERA now is at 0.79 on the season. So if you got an ERA under 1, that's pretty good. If you have a whip under 1, that's good as well. He's got a 0.97 whip. And what's so impressive about Kodai Senga when he's rolling is his ability to pitch himself out of jams. The first inning, third inning, fourth inning were all easy. 1, 2, 3 frames. But we saw him deal with some struggle in the second, fifth, and sixth. And each time make big-time pitches to mitigate damage. In that second inning, he issues a 1-out walk, then gives up a double. So you got runners on second and third, 1 out. What do you need to do in that spot? You got to get a strikeout. And sure enough, he does exactly that. And what's impressive is he just threw 3 forkballs and let Nolan Gorman get himself out. Gorman was ahead in the count, 2-0. Kodai Senga throws a great forkball that was just below the zone. Really tough pitch to lay off on. Gets a swing. Then forkball in the dirt. Gets a swing. Then another forkball in the dirt. Gets a swing. A lot of those Nolan Gorman just couldn't hold. Couldn't check himself because it looked so good. And once he realized it was a fork, it was in the dirt in the back, crossed the plane. And there you go. Strikeout. Huge moment there for Senga to get that big strikeout, because now you open everything up for yourself with 2 outs, goes right out to the next hitter with fastballs, gets a fly out, gets out of that inning. 5th inning, leadoff double, wild pitch. He's got to run on third base with nobody out. But who's up? Nolan Gorman. Throws a curveball that was nowhere near the zone, high fastball that was fouled off. There was a forkball for a strike that was also fouled off, but that one was in the zone. Then he went for a high fastball to change the eye level again. Nolan Gorman looked at it for ball 2, goes right back to the forkball in the dirt, can't lay off it, swing and miss, and he gets another strikeout. He got 16 swings on the ghost fork in this game, 7 whiffs, 7 foul balls. Only 2 balls were put in play on his ghost fork, one of them to the next batter, who hits a ground ball to Brett Beatty, who replaced Mark Vientos, who was dealing with some groin soreness, made a leaping catch, and then he said he was running for a pop-up after that, and he felt it, so he came out of the game. Doesn't seem like it's too serious, but I don't think he'll be in the lineup on Sunday. Regardless, Brett Beatty's in there in that 5th inning, gets a ground ball. He's playing back, but he reads it really well that it was hit hard enough that he can make the play at the plate. Perfect throw home. That was a big help for Senga to keep the Cardinals off the board to gun down that runner at the plate. And then, he was able to get out of that jam. Great defense overall in this game. Another reason why the Mets pitching has been so good is because the defense has been outstanding. The one guy that has made some mistakes is Francisco Lindor, and those isolated errors have been surrounded by nothing but great play by him and the rest of the infield, really. Now, Vientos had a couple bad games where I think he took his bat out to him, on the field, but Brett Beatty's been excellent. He made that one error in that one game too, but overall excellent at third base and second. Acuna is awesome. We saw that in the sixth inning. Kodai Senga issues a leadoff walk. Brendan Donovan comes up and has a real grind of a bat against Kodai Senga. I mentioned 7 foul balls on the ghost fork. I think 5 of them came in that at bat where he was getting these nasty ghost forks and he couldn't put them in play, but he was at least good enough to get a bat in the ball. And so eventually, after going through this a 10-pitch battle, Kodai Senga eventually says, all right, I guess we're going to throw a slider because he can't hit the ghost fork, but he's going to keep fouling it off. And so he throws a good slider, gets a ground ball to Acuna. Tough play. Ball came at him quick, 95 miles per hour off the bat, but he fields it cleanly, makes a great flip to Francisco Lindor, and Lindor turns the double play to really mitigate a lot of what was going on in that inning to prevent it from being, a worse inning for Senga or the next guy coming, because then after that, double play, Senga really had to work so hard for it. He ends up hitting Nolan Arenado with a pitch, and it wasn't the first pitch. It was like the 5th pitch of that bat, but he was nowhere near the zone before that. And so I think Carlos Mendoza had seen enough. He was up to 89 pitches. So he pulls him, goes to Reed Garrett. Reed Garrett promptly comes on, gets the ground out. Mets get out of that inning. He stayed on for the 7th, 1-2-3 frame for Garrett there. So 4 great outs from him. AJ Minter had an adventurous 8th inning that saw him issue 3 walks, but also get 3 ground balls to strand all of those runners. The last one, bases loaded, obviously, couple of outs. And Francisco Lindor, actually not bases loaded. They got a force out in that play, but there was, I think, runners at first and third. Francisco Lindor was playing just to the left or just to the right of second base. He was shifted over as much as he could with, I think, Alec Burleson hit the ground ball, but it's a ground ball that typically would be the second baseman's ball, but Francisco Lindor goes from the other side of the bag, ranges all the way over, and fields it with Acuna coming across. And I think what you can notice if you look at the replay closely, you can see Francisco Lindor's lips. You could read him saying, I got it. He calls Acuna off because Acuna probably could have made that play, but for Acuna, all of his direction is moving away from first base. So you'd have to backhand it and turn and fire. For Lindor, he was able to field it, spinorama, throw a strike to first base, get the runner out. A great play to get out of that inning without giving up a run and to bail AJ Minter out a little bit. I mean, the walks you definitely can't have, but he was able to keep the ball on the ground beyond that. And then Edwin Diaz comes on and looked really good, struck out the first 2 batters he faced, gets a ground out to Lindor to end the perfect 9th inning. And the Mets come away winners by a score of 3-0, but just great pitching, great defense. And this team continues to roll. But how did they get those 3 runs? I want to talk about the offense, how Pete Alonso continues to be red hot. Just another outstanding game by Pete. And we'll do a little preview of what will lie ahead on Sunday's game if the Mets can try to bring out the mops. Okay, when you win more than 3, if you end up sweeping a 4-game set, I believe it was Foolish Baseball, if I'm not mistaken, who has coined that, or maybe it's Cespedes Family Barbecue. I don't know which baseball content creator came up with it, but I'm definitely ripping someone when I say this. But let's see if the Mets bring out the mops. I'm going to talk about the offense and what lies ahead in Game 4 in just a minute. First, though, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com to claim your $250 bonus today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our goal of 13,000 subscribers. We are right there, within 50, I believe now. So appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. All right, so when we talk about the Mets offense in this game, it wasn't an outstanding one. Team only drew one walk. That was Brett Beatty coming off the bench. They did get 8 hits, but only one of them with runners in scoring position. They were 1 for 7 in those situations. But when you pitch as well as the Mets have, all you need is some timely hits, and they got those timely hits in the third inning. Luis Angel Acuna with a leadoff double. Jose Azocar, who was in there for Tyrone Taylor, and hope for the last time. He had a rough day offensively. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It's not like he struck out a bunch, but we'll save that for tomorrow. I got a lot on the Mets roster decision that's coming, and we'll spend a little time on in the next segments. I'll give you some updates on Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez, but I'm hoping Azocar made his lone appearance with the Mets for some time here in this game. But regardless, he grounds out. Francisco Lindor grounds out. So puts Juan Soto up with a runner on second base. 2 outs. Can he come through? And he does. Rips one right back up the middle. Big hole there in the infield. Doesn't try to do too much. Gets the runner in to score Acuna. And then Pete Alonso continues his torrid start to the season. Takes a ball that was up and outside and just was all over it, rips it into the left field corner for a double that scored Juan Soto. And that's how the Mets got their first 2 runs, and they stuck with just those 2 runs all the way up till the bottom of the 8th inning, where Pete Alonso added some insurance on a pitch that wasn't horrible, right? I think it was a 2-2 count. Slider that they probably wanted down and in, a pitch that really breaks all the way into Alonso's hands that he can't get to. Instead, it was down, but it didn't get in. And so it just, because Alonso read it well, broke right into his bat, and he barreled it cleanly, hit 113.4 miles per hour off the bat, 443 feet to the second deck in left field. Just a monstrous home run, his 6th of the season. After the game, he was asked when the last time he was this locked in, and he said probably junior year of college. Crazy thing that baseball players can do sometimes, because he literally recalled, if you look at season by season for Pete Alonso's career dating back to college, the last time he had an OPS this high, he had a season in Vegas, which, I mean, that's a launching pad. When he was in, I guess, Triple-A was when the Mets still had Vegas. I'm kind of surprised that they still had Vegas as an affiliate when Pete Alonso was on or in the organization, in the farm system still. But regardless, Pete Alonso was able to pull the last time he's had an OPS this high. I'm not looking to see what that OPS was in Vegas because I'm just curious. I didn't mark it in my notes for the show today. It was 10-12 was the OPS there. And actually, no, not Vegas. Binghamton. He had a 941 OPS in 67 games in Vegas in AAA, where he hit 19 home runs in 67 games. It was Binghamton in 2018 Double-A, where he had the 10-12 OPS. But again, highest OPS he has had is junior year at Florida, 58 games, a 1128 OPS. He hit 374 in his junior year of college, 469 on base percentage, 659 slug, 14 homers, 18 doubles in 58 games. Incredible that he is outpacing that against big league competition. 21 games played this year. He's hitting 356, 467 on base, 753 slug, which is that high because it's 6 home runs, 9 doubles, and 1 triple for a 1220 OPS. Aaron Judge has had a great start to the season. Now I'm curious on that one. Is he still out slugging Judge? He might be. I'll tell you in a second. But Pete Alonso has just been unbelievable to start this season. He's not going to sustain this all year. I don't think it's fair to expect him to sustain this all year, to sustain a slug that's 750. He is out slugging Aaron Judge. Judge has a 731 slug. Pete Alonso is up again at 753. Judge getting on base at a 505 clip. So he just narrowly edges him out on OPS by 16 points. He's hitting 397. But man, Pete Alonso has been unbelievable. I don't think he's going to have a 750 slug all season, but I do think we could see Pete Alonso set career highs pretty much across the board. I don't know about hitting the 53 home runs again from his rookie season. That was a juice ball year, but can Pete Alonso out-hit his career high of a 271 batting average? He absolutely can. Can he? Let's see what his career high is on base percentage. Don't know that one off the top of my head like I know the batting average. Career high 2019, so when he was a rookie, 358. In 2022, he had a 352 on base. I think Pete can outdo that this year. He's at 467 right now. Career high in slug came in 2019, 583. I could see Pete outdoing that if he continues to hit doubles at this clip. It's just a refreshing thing to see Pete Alonso clearly without any worries on his mind. It felt like this guy was playing baseball with like a backpack on, like just a bag of baggage, just weighing him down. And now it's like he has taken it off and he's free and easy. And he just knows I got to go out and beat Pete Alonso and I'm going to be just fine. He has been an absolute revelation. I hope he can keep this up to some respect, but just to not get into those funks where he seems to be plagued mentally. At some point, he's going to hit into some outs, but the approach he has in the box right now is second to none. He has just been unbelievable. And now Juan Soto is starting to pick it up. 2 for 4 in this game. He did steal a base as well as second of the season. He has driven in runs now in 4 of his last 6 games. And so if you get those two guys cooking in the 2 and 3 spots and Francisco Lindor continues what he's done in April, that 1-2-3 is as good as anybody has in baseball. And with that, you're going to have a good lineup, especially once you get some of the other guys picking it up, like a Brandon Nimmo, like a Mark Vientos, like your DH platoon of Marte and Winker. So I think this team's in a really good spot, and they're going to get some reinforcements coming up soon. Game 4 of this series, Sonny Gray versus Clay Holmes. Tough draw for the Mets. Sonny Gray, still a very good pitcher. 3.13 ERA through 4 starts this year. 23 strikeouts in 23 innings, a 0.78 whip. That's outstanding. He is not letting up many base hits or walks at all. Last start was an absolute gem. 7 scoreless, allowed 3 hits, 1 walk. Just a great outing for Gray. He's going to be tough, but he's got a tough adversary. Clay Holmes has been getting better start after start after start. Last start allowed 1 run on 2 hits in 5 innings, 8 strikeouts. Maybe this is the day you see Clay Holmes pitch a little bit deeper into the game. But the Mets bullpen, I think it's definitely, ridden the waves, and I think they're in a better spot now, to be able to kind of go into that Phillies series fresh. You got one more game but before you get there, and hopefully Clay Holmes can pitch deep into this game. You've seen throughout this series, all the guys all the starters able to give the Mets some length. So maybe Clay Holmes for the first time this year can get through a 6th inning. That would be a huge boost. Jose Budo hasn't thrown in a while. I'm sure he's going to be sort of piggybacking this start, and he might be able to give you multiple innings and bridge that gap to potentially an Edwin Diaz. I think he'd still be available, though that's 4 and 5 days, 4 appearances in 5 days. So we'll see if the Mets stay away from that or not. But Edwin likes to throw, and if he's in a rhythm and it seems like he's starting to get there, I don't think that they would necessarily stray away from him. But I think the bullpen is in a good place, as good as it can be for the Mets to potentially squeak out one more against the Cardinals and make this an outstanding start to this homestand with that big Phillies matchup on mind coming up here on Monday. So a lot of fun to start to think about that series, but there's one more game that we get to watch before then. I want to talk, though, in this final segment about the guys that could join the fold for that game, because it does appear or that series against the Phillies, it does appear like Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez very well could be back. I want to tell you the latest update on them and their rehab progress. And I'll also give you a little bit of a look into the rotation in Binghamton, where those two guys are playing right now, who have been the early standouts. We'll talk about it all in just a minute. First, though, with a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up. There's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Today, I want to play Clay Holmes because they have his strikeout projection at 5. I think he's going to get more than that. Last couple starts, he has gone over 5 strikeouts. I think it was 6 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, then 8 strikeouts. So I think Clay Holmes is going to get there. And I'm also going to combine that with some NBA action. Steph Curry, more than 25 points. Tyler Hero, more than 23.5 points. It's a lot of fun to be able to look across the sports landscape and fill out your lineup card. Download the app if you want to play today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get an update from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. So let's talk about some Binghamton Rumble Pony baseball. I should have grabbed my hat for this segment. Good game for both Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez as they inch their way closer to return. Jeff McNeil played a full game at second base, went 2 for 5, and he hit a homer. That's a good sign for Jeff. One of 3 Rumble Ponies that homered in this game, Nick Morabito and Ryan Clifford, each got off the schneid. They each hit their first homers of the season. Good to see those two guys have a nice day because both of them have really been riding the struggle bus to start the season. Now, Francisco Alvarez also went 2 for 5, just a couple of singles, but he played his second straight game behind the dish, caught all 9 innings. He will DH on Sunday. Jeff McNeil will play another game at second base. And barring anything from there, I think we're going to see both of these guys return on Monday to face off against the Phillies. It's a big-time series. You know they'll both want to be there for it. And I think it's going to give this team a little extra lift. Now, Luis Torrens has played great this season. And you're starting to see better play from Luis Angel Acuna and Brett Beatty. But still, getting Jeff McNeil back, getting Francisco Alvarez back, it just stands to make this team better. And I know people might say, well, okay, so how much are these guys going to play? Should they take away playing time from people who are thriving? You know what? I think the interesting thing about the catching side of it, you're seeing Luis Torrens and what he's doing with his arm, and you're seeing his ability as a defensive catcher with his game calling and everything else. He has been outstanding. But Francisco Alvarez, as a leader of this team, does a lot of those things well. He might not have the same arm as Luis Torrens, but he means a lot in that clubhouse. And so you can't tell me that going from Hayden Sanger, even though he's held his own, to Francisco Alvarez does not make your team markedly better. I do think they're going to have to figure out the timeshare because you need to see Torrens kind of stay hot. He's been really good. At the same time, how hot has he been? He's hitting 240 with a 269 on base. 420 slug. He's got a 689 OPS. So I feel like his numbers have been overstated a little bit. 12 strikeouts and 50 at-bats. He's been good, but Francisco Alvarez still has a ceiling that's so much higher than Luis Torrens. And so it's going to be good to see, in a series, you'll probably get 2 starts from Alvarez, 1 start for Torrens. I think Torrens can stay in a groove with that. And in a certain, circumstance, there could be a world at times where you see both of those guys, I don't know about get into the starting lineup, but get into a game potentially, depending on who's struggling, depending on what you have on your bench. But even if they don't, even if it it comes down to that split of 2 out of every 3 games, you got Alvarez, 1 out of every 3 Torrens, that's a fine way to do it. And I think the Mets will be good in that spot. And then the question of second base and the playing time there is a lot more of a nuanced one. I really feel that Jose Azocar is going to go down when Jeff McNeil comes back because you have the ability to put Acuna in center field. You have Tyrone Taylor. You could always put Nimmo in center field in a pinch easily. And Jeff McNeil, I think, would be comfortable out there. Especially now that Mark Vientos has a little bit of groin soreness where he's kind of day-to-day. Are you going to send Beatty down to bring up Azocar so that, and then just, I guess, have Acuna play third? You could. But if you want the best team possible against the Phillies, you probably want to have Brett Beatty playing third base until Vientos is good to go. And so that might even help push the Mets into what I think is the right direction on that decision they're going to have to make, where you have Beatty, so you have 2 solid third base options. You have 3 options at second base because Beatty can still flex over and play second if you need him to, but you'll have McNeil and Acuna that'll cover that spot as a pseudo platoon. Beatty and Vientos isn't going to be a platoon, but as I talked about on yesterday's show, it does allow you to shield Vientos if there's a tough righty that's a bad matchup for him for whatever it is. You can have Beatty that can play there. And then in center field, you just got to piece it together until you get Jose Siri back if you do. And even if not, you're just going to be piecing it together all season until someone sort of breaks out in that spot. And Acuna, has as good of a chance as anybody right now, I feel like, to be a above average all around center fielder for the Mets. So I think this is going to make the Mets a lot better. And it's exciting that this is a potential outcome that we could see of a complete healthy Mets roster outside of Siri as soon as Monday. So good news on that front. Now, staying in Binghamton to give you a little minor league update as I try to cover the Mets farm system throughout the season while not taking away from all the attention that needs to be put towards the big league club. We're going to focus in on the Binghamton rotation and what we've seen so far, because they have 3 guys there that are legit pitching prospects that could be part of the Mets' future in their rotation. 2 guys that we talked about a lot going into the season. 1 guy who is in the midst of a breakout. I'll start with a known commodity who was on the mound on Saturday, and that is Nolan McLean. 6 scoreless innings for Binghamton, allowed 2 hits, walked 4, so that's a little bit high, but he struck out 8. So really strong start of the season for Nolan McLean. He's made 3 starts, he allowed just 1 run, 22 strikeouts in those 15 innings pitched. One thing, he has been a little bit wild, 7 walks and he's hit 2 batters, but he's also only allowed 9 hits. So really outstanding start for Nolan McLean. There's a world when Nolan McLean can reach the same heights as a prospect as Brandon Sproat. That's how good his stuff is. I was definitely wrong when I ranked Jonah Tong above Nolan McLean on my top 10 before the season. Nolan McLean is the second best pitching prospect in this system. I think we can say that. I really do. Not even to look at what Jonah Tong has done. He has struggled a bit to start the year. So far, he's allowed 3 runs in his 2 starts. So it's 6 earned runs over 9 innings pitched. That's a 6 ERA. That looks a little bit worse than I think he has pitched necessarily. I think he'll be fine. I think Jonah Tong is still a good prospect. I just think Nolan McLean is a much better prospect, and I didn't quite see that going into the year. Now I think it's pretty obvious, but Jonah Tong, he'll likely start today, so we'll see how that goes for him. I'm not hitting the panic button, but he's got some things to work on. It's okay. What is he, 20? How old is Jonah Tong? 22, 23 years old? He's still a younger prospect that really got fast track last year. He's 21. Jeez. Yeah, so he must have a birthday in June. So he'll be 22 in June. He's going to be fine. He is ahead of the curve as far as the level that he's at. Now, Jack Wenninger is the surprise breakout prospect that I alluded to there. He's been the best arm in Binghamton. If you look at the stats through 3 games, he's 3-0. That's always, you don't really look at pitcher record too much. But then when you see something like that, 3-0, that Binghamton has won all 3 of his starts, that does say a little something. 5 innings each time, has not allowed more than a run in any of his starts. He had 1 shutout start and 2 starts where he gave up 1 run. And he's not allowed more than 3 hits in any start. So he has been really tough. You put it all together, 2 earned runs on 7 hits, 4 walks, 1 hit batter, and 15 innings pitched. Just like Nolan McLean, he's got 22 strikeouts in those 15 innings. So Jack Wenninger making a name for himself. He was a 6th-round pick for the Mets in 2023 last year. Got off to a great start in St. Lucie. Had some struggles, so the stats don't look as good, but still got the promotion up to Brooklyn. Pitched really well there, and he didn't make a ton of starts in Brooklyn. So I was a little surprised that he ended up starting the season in Binghamton, but clearly the Mets player development people saw that he was up to the task of pitching in Double-A. Yeah, last year he made 9 starts, 10 appearances in Brooklyn, 3.12 ERA in 43 1/3 innings pitched, but he struck out 51. And now this year, just outstanding start to the season in Binghamton. So it's going to be really cool to see if he can sustain that, because the Mets have a couple guys now in Double-A that are starting to knock on the door of a Triple-A promotion potentially. I think it's still a fine level for McLean and Wenninger to be at for a little bit. Not that the Mets have to rush into any promotions. It's only been 3 starts, but at some point they might make that decision and bring those guys up if they think they aren't being challenged enough, and they might join the rotation up in Triple-A that has Brandon Sproat and Blade Tidwell as the 2 top prospects up there. Dom Hamill sort of fallen off of that top prospect status. But regardless, really good to see the Mets have these arms in the upper levels that are starting to make a name for themselves, because the Mets have really had to basically buy rotations in free agency the last couple of years. And they might finally be in a position next season where they can let the youth sort of compete for roster spots, and they might have a much different looking rotation in the coming years where a lot of homegrown starters can make their way up and make an impact. So really exciting stuff there in Double-A to see Wenninger and McLean start the year so strong, and I think Jonathan, he'll get there as well. Those are three really promising pitching prospects the Mets have at that level. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. On tomorrow's show, I will break down the final game of this series against the Cardinals. Of course, we're going to preview what lies ahead in a heavyweight matchup of the top two teams in the NL East, Mets versus Phillies. So that's going to be a lot of fun this week. And of course, I'll be telling you how the roster is going to fit together once McNeil and Alvarez return. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel that covers everything. Talking about Locked On Sports Today with our local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.